just in case.
Okay, I was about to say I can go harass her on WhatsApp if you would like.
I have her phone number. I'll text her. Like we'll all just attack.
It's just all pile on, right?
I'm
She's probably in
making
another
sure-
meeting going, I know.
I'm just making sure she has the link. But yeah, no, I think it's great. You guys are just chatting, saying hi. So, welcome everybody to the June Women in M365 meetup. Heather will be on here shortly, hopefully. I just sent her the link. She did confirm. I think she probably just got busy. But thank you guys so much for being here. As a reminder, this is a place for women to network, to grow. Again, it's not exclusive to women. It is just the idea of this is to provide a space, a safe space for women to be able to meet other women, connect, network, share information, and also we tend to highlight women. So, we tend to have women presenters and we tend to have information that is supportive for women. If you have access to the chat, and I know this has kind of been an ongoing limitation for some people, but if you have gotten into the community tenant, you should have access to chat. If you have access to chat, feel free to share your information, feel free to connect. If for whatever reason you don't have access to chat, then you can also join our LinkedIn group if you haven't already, and you can also share your information there. Anybody that's in the group, feel free to connect with each other. And then going forward, we are working on a little bit better plan to be able to make this a little bit easier to get to chat. But I believe, I don't know. I keep saying things and then I don't know what the answer is, but I think this might be the last month for at least using this meeting. Maybe I'll say that. I feel safe in saying that. So I'll do my best to get that updated so that this is a little bit better. Let me go check on Heather. Do. She is green. She has not responded to me yet.
If she's like the rest of us, she's stuck in another meeting.
Oh my God.
Right. I think the new rule is you give used to be 3 to 5 minutes. I'd be like, okay, they're not showing, goodbye. Now you just can't do that because we're all going, I really need to go to another meeting.
It just happened. Oh, good. Yeah, that's great to know, Kathy. I know mine works for the most part. So Kathy just said when she joined the meeting, it automatically logged her into the correct tenant. She didn't have to manually switch. I'm finding more and more and more that the multi-tenant identities are working a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. The only thing that I would say that I find to be the most successful is to log into Teams with each correct login. So if you log into Teams with your different tenant logins, then it knows to switch, and that works out pretty well. As opposed to kind of the old school style where you log just only into the browser when you need to use something. Maybe I need to take my old blog and write a new blog about instead of only using the browser, switching over to multiple Teams logins. That would be a good update.
Yeah, that's what I've got. Although periodically I have to switch tenants and go back and re-authenticate in the community tenant because of policies. So it'll give me that little, warning icon. Like, oh no, oh, it's okay.
Yeah, I think the more accounts you have logged in, the more times it asks to re-authenticate and reset on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah, and I have some Devo accounts I got to switch to.
Well, let's see. While we wait on Heather, is she there yet?
I just saw her.
Yeah. You saw her pop in. Oh,
yeah.
I see Heather Severino.
Yep, she's on page 2.
She's on page 2.
Yeah. Aging.
She'll be front page in just a minute.
I'm on page 2.
Yay, you made it!
Hi, I'm
it.
having massive problems this morning with stuff. I was like, I can't log in, and where's my stuff? And I had to reboot, so I apologize for being late. I was like, oh my gosh. So, hi, everybody.
No worries. I'm going to spotlight you just so that you're not hidden.
Yeah.
On the pages of the pages.
Heather is no stranger to the spotlight.
right?
Goodness.
So I
Hi.
know we're all kind of crazy busy, and it's no big deal. Like, I think we just all like are in this mode right now. It's kind of just nutty seasons of change and things happening. But Heather, thank you so much for being here, and speaking for us and talk, kind of talking to us about some of these topics. So just so everybody knows, like we said on last month, I know we've got a few more changes afoot to get this completely over to the women in M365. There will probably be a few more updates that will be coming out over the next few weeks in terms of updated meetings and things like that. So just kind of hold tight with us. But thank you so much, Heather, for being here. And I'm just going to hand the show over to you so that you can just have the spotlight in whatever way you want. And everybody else, if you have questions, if you have access to chat, please use chat. If you don't have access to chat, then please just use the raise hand, and then somebody can call on you, and that way we'll know who wants to talk if you want to come off mute.
Cool. Awesome. I brought slides because, that's what we do when you work at Microsoft and work in this wonderful ecosystem of ours, right? So anyway, thank you, first of all, for having me. This is awesome. And congratulations on all of the, moves and brand changes and all of that goodness. And it was really great to be with you in Las Vegas for all of that and, have that session that we had. And the logo's gorgeous, by the way. It's so fun. So that was really cool. And I'm glad we made some pins and stickers and stuff, which, hopefully we'll like continue to bring those along to in-person events and things. So just congratulations on that. I think the culmination of it's like the ever-changing brands, right? So like started, with, women in teams or SharePoint and other things. And so like bringing everybody together under one auspices and house, house of M365 women is wonderful. So, we are serving fierceness today. So, very excited about that. So congrats. That's very cool. So yeah, I give this as a lightning talk. I also give it as a bigger one as well. But I also I will say and address that yeah, there's been a lot going on in the world as far as geopolitical, socioeconomics and AI and jobs and all kinds of things. And so there's a lot of big feels. I too have them about all kinds of things that are going on. And so I keep leaning back into community. I keep leaning back into the what I believe in. And I believe in joy and I believe in having your hand in the air and really working on connecting with people. Because that's, to me, we have strength in our voices and our numbers and when we get together and talk about things. So I really appreciate meetings like this where there's a platform for people to talk and also to share what's going on and to be vulnerable. And so I just want to say thank you again for having me here on with that and knowing kind of all the things that are going on right now that are affecting people in many different ways, because it's important to, I think, to acknowledge that stuff. So I have been, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Heather Cook. I used to be Heather Newman, got divorced and went back to my maiden name. And so, spent half my life as both. Yeah, so that was fun. If you ever have to do that, it's very exciting and it takes a lot of time and energy and it's a big pain. So I don't recommend it. Yeah, I'm out in the world, on Instagram and TikTok and all kinds of places. And I have a newsletter and all of those good things. So I put out a lot of content, at least I try to, on a regular basis. I've been in and around Microsoft for 24 years. It'll be 25 next year. It's SharePoint and I share an anniversary. I've been an FTE, full-time employee at Microsoft for altogether about 6 years. Actually, what's today? I'll have been at Microsoft 6 years on the 8th. And that was from a stint way back in the day for about a year. And then I was a VDash vendor for like 12 years doing event production and saying yes to every project because I was like, I like this traveling and the money is good. So I'm going to keep saying yes. And so I did that for a long time. And then I came back to Microsoft as a full-time June of 2020. Donna Sakar literally slid into my Twitter DMs and was like, "Hey, are you okay? What's going on?" And I was like, "Yeah, my entire book of business and work just went away like that." And she was like, "You should come run community for Power Platform." And that's how I got back to Microsoft. I did that for 3 years, and then I came back home because I came up in SharePoint as a wee babe a long time ago. And so I'm now doing community engagement events for the M365 team, engineering side for Jeff Teeper, Adam Harmitz, and then working with Caroline and Gatimu. So, and I was a theater major, so I do a lot of jazz hands and stuff. And there's a lot of theater majors and arts majors. I know, especially in the Microsoft arena in Redmond. I point at like all my theater people are in the like Microsoft training videos. Like I'm like, oh, there's Tim and there's, you know, it's very funny. So, so I use that all the time. But yeah, that's a little about me. From Michigan originally, grew up in Wheaton, Illinois, spent a lot of time in New York and London and other places. I've lived a lot of different places and got to travel. That was the bug that bit me with Microsoft, was being able to travel, being an event producer. And that was just something that I just was like, done. I'm going to keep doing this. It's awesome. So super fun there. And then just, you know, knowing all of you, like so many of you, like all over the world. I think that's the thing about community that I love so much, is that I can pretty much go anywhere, and you can too, with this community, and be like, yo, who's here? Like, who wants to go out to dinner? What's going on? And you can pretty much do that anywhere. And it's awesome. And I love that about this community. Um, Things I'm centering on myself right now. I am squarely Gen X. I'm very proud of it. You can probably see like all my acronyms or things back here. I love rotary phones. I love all kinds of that. I love that stuff, and I'm very tangible, even though I am embracing the AI as well. But for me, and being a woman, I am looking at, you know, I am in my, you know, midlife, and I am also, just to tell you, like menopause is something that I'm like, oh, that's fun. What? So that's really exciting. And so like I'm I'm really centering this slide for me is that taking care of ourselves physically, spiritually, and emotionally is not only a gift that we give to ourselves, but we give it to the other people in our lives. And so taking time to really think about that for each of us helps everything, you know, and it's just so important. And so I'm really working hard on learning more about health right now. I don't have a thyroid anymore, and so I have to take a pill every morning, levothyroxine. And so it's like I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking about this fun what I've now, you know, it's like the Minnow belly and other things. And so like I'm thinking through like all of this stuff on top of like everything I have to do today technology wise, and trying to spread the word on different things out there that I'm finding. And so I'm really thinking about this slide a lot, about how do I take care of myself physically? How do I have that spirit, like the spiritual moment, whatever you believe, religion or, you know, the goddesses or whatever. Like I think it's really important to have some sort of spiritual practice where you can meditate, center yourself, sound baths, whatever it is. And then just our emotions. I think that we all carry a lot of water. Women carry the weight of the world, and we carry our families, we carry people into the world, we carry people out of the world. So it's so important, I think, that we talk about this stuff, because I don't think we do enough. Yeah. So I think, you know, at work, and also in relationships, these things to me serve both sides of the house, whether it's work or at home. So cultivating trust, leadership, psychological safety is super important, and leading with empathy. I am a huge proponent of empathy, and I think that anybody says that we don't need empathy in the world is just absolutely ridiculous. I think it is one of the most important things that we can have as human beings for each other. And so cultivating trust, as far as like your team goes, I think, you know, as a leader, I've been a manager at Microsoft. I've been a manager of, I think I had 60 people working for me when I was leading marketing for AvePoint, a cloud services provider you probably might have heard of on the East Coast. I've had, you know, any given time when I'm producing an event, I've got 200 people that I'm telling, you know, kind of what to do between speakers and all of that stuff. So I think, you know, you're a leader and a manager in many ways all the time, right? I lead my family, like as well. But I think as far as being a manager on a team for work, I think, getting to know people a little bit is really important. And I think, there's people that I work with that I'm really close friends with. And that I've reported to them, they've reported to me, they've hired me, we've hired them. I blend those things pretty easily. But there's some people that I'm like, you are my manager and you are my client. And that there's a very, I wouldn't call it a wall, but I definitely call it a chain link fence, if you would, and so but I do think, understanding your people a little bit, on who they are and where they're coming from and how they think more than anything else and what type of learner they are really helps. Because if you're trying to work with somebody who's very kinesthetic or listens or sees, and you're putting things at them that they don't understand in the way that they learn, they're never going to get it. So I think that's really fun to really try and dig in and understand who your team is. Empowering folks is important. Being able to give something to someone to actually do, like you own this, you lead this. We all want a sense of leadership around certain things, because if not, you can get lost, and not have that sense of completion. I think finishing things is really important. So what aspect of a project am I in charge of? Or what is it that I'm doing? And so I think that's really important as a leader to make sure that people are a work stream lead or that they know what aspect of the project that they're in charge of. And so as a leader, I think that's really important, so that we can feel like we finish something, satisfaction, and be proud of things. And so that as a leader, I think it's good to make sure that you have that going on, in your team. Some leadership strategies. I think clarity is really important. When things aren't clear, people will diverge off and go do random things. So I think really setting up, like, what is the path? What is the goal? Who's doing what? And really, because it makes sure that people are focused and motivated too. So I think if you haven't started with that in mind on a certain project or what you're doing, or even as a business, I think you really need to reel it back and understand what your mission is, what your goals are, and what you're trying to achieve. I feel like there's a lot of time wasted, doing things that don't matter, or that you get into the churn of something like this is the way we do it. And so I feel like people who take the time as a leader to really define the goals and keep people on the path. Sometimes as a leader, that's what you're doing. I feel like that's my job most of the time, is that I'm like, no, 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 get back, go, come over here, come on, get back, get, oh, yep, 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 yep. I'm trying to think if there's a video game that's like that, I'm sure, that's like, are you on the right path? It's not quite Frogger, but it's like stay in the lines. It's like the jalopy, the goofy jalopy at Disney, right? It's like if you get close to the rails, it's like no, 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 get back over here. So creating clarity is super duper important, as a leadership value to me, and then also generating energy. Um, right now, frankly, like there's a lot of people that are obviously going through a lot. There's the people that are maybe no longer in a job, but then there's the people that are left. So it's like, how do you motivate and be like, hey, like what's the next step? And I think that being able to have, um, motivation, but also just being able to both also open up a conversation to listen to people about how they're feeling, that generates energy too, you know, just being heard. And so I think leaders, like in a time like this, that are having conversations of like, how do we all feel about what's going on? And really trying to, answer questions and show people what the path is really important. And then also just being excited about the work, like I love what I do most days. I find that, and I'm lucky, and I've also cultivated that. So there's a couple of things, that cultivation of that, seeking out the jobs, and also, finding myself in a place where I have leadership that believes in what I do and believes in community, which is nice because not everybody does. So I think, but it's my job to generate energy, when it's the hard stuff, when it's the stuff that's not so fun or boring or tedious, So I feel like figuring out how to motivate people in a place sometimes of, when it sucks is a really important skill to have as a leader for sure. Communicating, be clear and concise, be a really active listener. A lot of the time I can talk a lot, shocking. And but I have to listen a lot too as a leader, and ask sometimes pointy questions. But I think I tend to I really actually still like email because I still feel it's the tangible, and it's what I can go back to with people when I need to, but I tend to do a lot of work in chats as well. I don't know, it's changing so fast right now that I don't even know what it's going to be, in 2 months from now, to be honest with you, about how to communicate effectively to people. Like, I think I'm a little like, let's see what happens here, like, especially when people are generating so much AI driven content too. But I still think there is something about writing a good email, being super clear, being succinct. I tend to be a bit wordy, again, shocking, but I've gotten more concise, especially when I'm managing up into leadership. I know that they have this much time to like read something and understand what I want if I need something or what I'm trying to communicate to them. I also now with Copilot and Facilitator and some of the other things, knowing that when I write a large recap email, like I'm finishing today actually for the M365 conference, I have to remember and know that most people are not going to read the whole thing. They're going to read the recap. So there's now, in my mind, a new way to write effectively that actually uses the tools of Word, frankly, so that you're using things like headers and titles and that kind of stuff. And Copilot does that for you automatically. Um, but I think that's also the way that it's going to consume and bust out a recap. So I'm now thinking about what's the recap going to have in it? What do I want to make sure that it's being conveyed? Because I don't now control necessarily what someone is going to be reading unless they read the whole thing, which is bananas to me. Like I'm like, wait a minute, I want them to get this out of it, but there's a decision going to be made to have, what they're going to see. So I'm thinking about what the output's going to be too. So that's changing, I think, the way we communicate effectively, that I'm seeing right now. Driving results and ensuring success, accountability. I think that their accountability to me is huge, and that if people don't understand what the goal is and what they're supposed to be doing, then you're not going to get what you want done. And I think that ambiguity, people work in ambiguity really well, especially, and I think in technology and at Microsoft. But I also think that having really clear success metrics, goals, OKRs, whatever those are, is really important. And also, it's the way we get budget, most of the time, right? Like you have to have the data, that supports the money ask that you're getting, that supports the goals that you've driven. So there's importance in really, you can't deliver success unless you can say, what you did. And it's not just, oh, we had an event. Okay, cool. How many people came? What were the users? Did we affect revenue? What was the satisfaction scores? All that kind of stuff. And those are the things you need to do up front before and agree upon. So at the end, you can say, yeah, we raised that, by 10% or whatever that is. So as a leader, being super clear about that's really important. Recognizing good work. I think, we complain, people complain a lot, and people are more willing to put complaints out about people. Saying thank you is super important. I've gone through and I'm still working through this about, I had 18 work stream leads. I like to write thank you notes and things like that. And I did a lot of perspectives for people, which is our review. Like I wrote tons of them for folks who worked on this show and other shows and stuff. So I think that's super important. We need to take time for that for ourselves, for sure, with the people on our teams. Psychological safety, being able to take a risk, being able to speak up without fear of negative consequences. This one, it's so important, and also it's scary because I don't believe often that there's enough of psychological safety um, in teams and businesses. And this one to me is changing all the time, depending on kind of what's going on in the world, right? Like, would I say that I felt psychologically safer about 6 months ago? I did. Do I feel less so now? I do. And it's there's all kinds of things that I think affect this. Now, I do think that leaders and all of us here, we can work towards one, creating psychological safe spaces, meaning how we show up ourselves and how we talk to each other. I also think that there's a way to, I think, I like to force this one is that um, every time somebody's come up to me after a show and been like, I'm having a problem with my manager, or this, that, or a person, or whatever, um, they're like, should I just go direct? And I was like, well, you can. However, I always go back to team agreements, especially in the workplace, because it is the best excuse to try and define parameters and borders about how we talk to and how we treat each other. And you can totally use it as an excuse in order to deal with bad behavior. It's trickery, complete trickery that I love. And I use it all the time. I not only use it with my team, I suggest it all the time. And so what is a team agreement? It's where, you get together as a team and we're like, hey, and it's not manipulation, it is the truth. Like, it is a good thing to do just in itself. To shared values, how do you communicate, where do we put stuff, do we use teams, do we use email, do blah, blah, blah. Like, all of those things are part of it, and it's something that you can review on a quarterly basis because you have new people coming in all the time. So it's a great excuse, I think, to do this kind of work. This is an example. So communication, collaboration, meetings, here's how we do certain things. And if you're a global team, what are your business hours? And anybody on the East Coast, you don't have to answer an email after 3 o'clock on Pacific time, right? I know I don't know, does anybody use these? Has anybody done this work? Not much. Yeah. Heather, Severina. Okay. Yeah. So again, this is a great activity to do just in general, right? But I think it's also when you're dealing with problems, it helps because you can kind of use one of these areas to address behavior, most of the time. Now, there's behavior that you can't address with a team agreement. If it's like in the, people are, there's harassment or other things that are going on, that's not what this is for. But I think for communication style, for collaboration, for dealing with how people meet and all of that stuff, you can set up expectations also so that you also kind of, put your manager on blast, but like you get them to agree to these things too, so that you can kind of get a feel for like, is this person expecting me to like work on a weekend, you know? And then if you've done all of this together, it's harder for them to kind of break the rules, if you will. So I'm a big fan of this, doing this, and I have more slides that I'm happy to share with you that go deeper in each of these as examples, so I can make sure that you have those as well. These are all from Microsoft Manager training that I took forever ago, and I love it, and I talk about it all the time because I think it's awesome. So there. And then I think, leading with empathy, for me, I theater is about empathy, because any sort of entertainment where you can walk in somebody else's shoes and understand their story. That's why we love great storytelling. That's why we love plays and we love binge watching certain things and all of that, right? All of that entertainment stuff that takes us away from ourselves for a minute and puts us into another person's life.
Yes,
So
entertainment. I'm crazy. Who's nuts?
Charity McCoy, do you have something to add?
Oh, no, so sorry.
That's cool. About entertainment being crazy? I don't know. I heard. No? Okay, cool. So anyway, yeah, so I feel like that's like the sort of outward where we go find good stories and we relate to other people. But I think recognizing when people are having, big emotions, I do think that it's important in our industry. So I would say we tend to have, the world has a lot of neurodiversity. I think tech has a lot of neurodiversity as well. And so I think in thinking about, there's a lot of things that we can know about a person by meeting them, by talking to them, by, looking at them and all of that, depending on, how you come into the world and your abilities. I think there's a lot of things that we don't know about people. There's about 27 people on this call. Every person on this call is dealing with something. Like whether it's, kids and aging parents, health, job, whatever, partner, you never know what is behind somebody's smiling eyes. You just don't. And some people share more than others. Some people you have personal connections to and know more about them. But I think that leading with understanding that everybody got something going on. And so assume that. And so when you're interacting with them, when you're talking with them, when they're talking with you, having that as your first sort of bit of empathy, I think is hugely important. And it also helps, I think, just with relatability and any issues and problems. It's sort of like, assuming the best in people, assuming the best intent in people as well. I think 98% of people are great. That 2% that sucks, hopefully you don't run into them, or they're not in your lives, or you cut them out quickly because, that's a good thing to do in my humble opinion. But I think, all of these things, empathy leads to, better productivity and more problem solving and all of the, the things that we say in bullet points. But I do think it helps because when you're in the muck and in the mix and you need to get something done, you've forgotten to do something, you need to leave because you got to deal with the kid that did, whatever at school or whatever. Like, you want people in your life and on your team that are like, I got you. What do you need? Yeah. Okay. And so having that empathy for each other, understanding that we're human beings and that we screw up and that we need things sometimes really important. And it's hard to work with leaders that don't run with the empathy, you know. Um, and the thing is that I tend to just try and lay it on even thicker myself, and show empathy for them. Some people don't have an empathy button. They don't, and that's hard. And with that, I feel like it's a crucial trait that we all should have and encourage in others if we can. I also think transparency is really important. And I think being able to acknowledge when you make a mistake, especially as a leader, I think I, uh, uh, transparency is different than apologizing for everything. I think women apologize way too often for everything. We say I'm sorry all the time. And if you can, the next time, unless you sneeze, or when that should be, like, excuse, whatever, excuse me or whatever, or if you physically actually bump into somebody and want to say you're sorry or you're heartfully sorry for something, try, instead of saying I'm sorry, try saying thank you. It's very weird and interesting. And that's, if you haven't tried that before, when you're looking around and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, and be like, oh, thank you. And it flips the script on that way of thinking. So there's transparency and then there's not saying sorry for everything. So they're very different things. But I do think being able to admit when you make a mistake is a really big thing. And people just are allergic to it, like being able to say I screwed up, or here's an example of a time that I made a mistake. I think as a leader or a manager, I think that's really important, especially when somebody screws up big time and you can relate to them and talk to them about, maybe a time that something happened with you. That's really great and important. And I think, you know, uh, transparency is a big deal, and not people and people are not very transparent at work sometimes because they're very guarded, because you have that, am I going to be fired? Am I going to be fired? Am I going to fire? Am I going to lose my job? Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. You've got that that voice in your head that does not shut up, So if you can, when you can, it's really good. Leaders promoting allyship, just continuing to have different perspectives and ideas at the table. The words diversity and inclusion, as we know, have been attacked and are, not in the light, as it were, in the past. So I am, just as a point for me personally, I write a lot about it, as many of you know, and I talk about it a lot, and I lead a lot of those initiatives. I am very I think we need to always be, bringing the boats and the tides up, giving each other experiences, giving each other opportunities. I'm not going to stop that. I don't plan to. I'm happy that Microsoft continues to be a leader with that, and hasn't changed a lot of things. I think that I have shifted a bit in how I talk about certain things. Belonging has been something that I've always talked about as part of diversity and inclusion, but I'm leading more with belonging and community as my buzzwords, if you will, just because words are being flagged. And so you have to pay attention to what's happening in the world, I think, on this stuff too. So but I definitely think allyship is very important for those of you who are on the call, the men on the call who, from that perspective, thank you for showing up, and thank you for, talking about people when they're not around and for giving opportunities. That's hugely important, and paying attention, like when we're setting up keynote speaker slates and all of those things in the world. Those things are important. Producers that do that, right? I think we flock to people who do those kinds of things and do that kind of work. And I encourage that with all of our event producers and other places, to make sure we're doing that and giving opportunities. And I make sure that when, we're doing lunches, it's women and allies in tech, to make it inviting for people to come and be a part of the conversation as well, because I think that's super important. Lastly, just, communicating, trust, creating those psychologically safe spaces, and using tools. Tools are trickery. Like the team agreements to me is a really great tool. And I think leaning into that is really good. And suggesting it, to a manager. Be like, hey, I heard about this. Heather was on talking about it, blah, blah, blah. I heard this thing in this, really, really blame me. And just be like, hey, I think this would be great for us to do. We should think about it, and check it out. And it's a great way to introduce that into different places. And you can do it in board meetings. You can do it, school board, all kinds of stuff. It's not just for work. Even you can do them personally. I've had, it's like the family agreements, like here's the way we do things. And I've had a couple of people tell me that they've used it with their families and they loved it, and it's just it's a framework. So yeah. So those are a few thoughts and things that I've talked about and put together. And I think ultimately, we're in a very tumultuous time right now. And I think the more that we talk with each other and support each other, I was just writing a piece that I'm going to put out probably later this week, just about what I'm loving, like on LinkedIn and other places, is the storytelling that's happening where people are shouting out each other and talking about each other's stories, talking about our history, capturing our history, because we're being erased, actively, and that's not okay. So I feel like the more that we can, curate our own stories, curate other stories, use our spaces that we have to put those things out into the world, to be loud, to be noisy, is really important. So yeah, I highly encourage that for sure. So there you go. Questions, thoughts, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Terrence. Are we doing questions? Is that what I'd like? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Hey, awesome.
Just for a remote to come off mute. Firstly, shout out on the owl on the question slide. I use that all the time, and it was was looking for a question slide background, and when I saw the owl, I knew that was the one. So we've got some kind of connection there.
Yeah,
I love it. But Sarah's point, though, what you were saying about the team agreement, I've heard it called other things like collaboration contract or team manifesto or whatever.
Yeah.
But what I really love about the spin you put on it is of not just focusing on how we use collaboration tools, but also communication styles.
Yeah.
And it just occurred to me, as you were talking that through, that when you don't have something like that, there's a lot of room for ambiguity in behavior of what's acceptable in the team. And in that vacuum of where we lack the agreed principles, people would take the path of least resistance, which is often falling back on your biases of how you can conduct yourself in business and who does what. And it's just a bit of an epiphany for me, really, to extend that beyond just use of tools and actually how we are towards each other as people. And then having that as a frame of reference to go back and say, look, you signed up to this, but your behavior now is XYZ. How can we align back in? So I just really love that. And I don't want to, I don't want to dominate the Q&A too much, but the points on empathy is just something I've watching what's going on, on your side of the pond, watching here from the UK, and at the same time, like really feeling for you folks on that side, but also thinking, what gets tolerated there, people here and in other countries, leaders will be looking at that and saying, wow, the shit they're getting away with. That emboldens me to behave in regressive ways. And so, kind of fighting it when you can. So thank you very much for the session.
You're welcome. Thank you. Yeah. And I think to tag on to what you're saying about if somebody's sort of going off this way too, I think it's a way to be like, hey, you know what? Do we need to redefine those team agreements? Because this is kind of happening and that's not what we agreed to. So do we need to redefine, so that's also a way to handle that, of like scooping them back into the fold, calling them out, but also scooping them back into the fold in a way that, you know what I mean? But great. Yeah. Thank you, Terrence. And I appreciate the view from over there as well, because thank you. And it's hard for sure. So, who's next? Don't know. Sivorn, if I'm saying that correctly. Hello?
Yes, you did, Sivorn.
Yeah, good. Cool.
Yeah, thank you for doing this meeting. I really enjoyed it and learned a lot. I'm a new manager. I used to manage projects, and then they put me in charge of all the technicians
fun.
and the infrastructure team. So I don't know if anyone knows color codes and personality types, if anyone's ever done any of that. So
a little bit.
Yeah. So our CATO used ChatGPT. He pretty much did a data dump in there so that we can say, what's John's primary and secondary color code? So before I speak with one of the technicians, I need to figure out what color code are they, so I can understand how to approach them better with whatever discussion I need to have with them. So not to hurt their feelings, but be direct, and everyone takes information differently.
So your managers did that, and then the expectation is that you're supposed to kind of do your job surrounding what color code people are?
What color code people are. We even have name tags on our desk with our primary color code.
Okay, I hate all of that. I mean, sorry, like what? Wow.
So for me personally, because I'm a new manager, I have a hard time calling people out.
Yeah, well, okay. One, personality tests and that kind of thing are like, one, some of them are really biased and bad, first of all, like and secondarily, like that information about people too is personal, private, and like it's not always something that is shared and then should be used and chewed up and put into an AI as well. So like to me, there's I'm throwing red flags like I'm like at like the World Cup right now. Like, okay. So like yeah, I that's a lot, to be honest with you, because the you there's so many different tests and those sorts of things, and that's not exactly who people are. And I don't believe that ChatGPT is the way to do that and manage people. So I have a big disagreement with that whole thing, to be honest with you. So like, and having people have a color on their desk that flags, I don't know. That's just I'm not a big fan of that. I'm sorry that that's happening, because I don't think that's the way we should be relating to people and human beings, to be honest with you. So, and you said I call people out, like you're being asked to, and Beth, I totally want to have you come into the conversation too, but like, what do you mean by calling people out?
So like, I mean, I got hundreds of examples. So for one, let's take one simple one where they just gave me access to everyone's time card. So now I know, like, for the hourly workers when they punch in and out. And I'm noticing there's a pattern with one of my technicians. He's scheduled to come in at 7, and sometimes he shows up at 7, sometimes he shows up at 7:30, sometimes he shows up at 8 o'clock.
So that's what you mean by like saying something to him about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah.
So,
I mean, I guess that information you could get whether you have AI or not. And if somebody is supposed to be in at a certain time and you can tell that they're not, I think that, and that's something that your company is wanting to make sure that as far as their performance and what their agreements are as far as their job, I think it's less calling out. I would maybe flip the way you think about it, about saying, you know what, hey, we've noticed that, your timing when you're coming in is irregular and you're supposed to be coming in at 7. We're noticing you're not doing that. And say, is there something preventing you from that? Is there, do you have something going on? Is there, how can we help you be more on time? Do we need to shift times or so? Like, I think again, approach it with empathy and say, instead of being like, you're not coming in on time, more of like, hey, let's talk about this. We noticed this because we have the tools and the technology. So like, it's not like we're not seeing what's happening, right? It's not like you're like,
right.
So I would think about that approach maybe. And if you're using technology and data to like track people and figure those things out, I mean, as a business, that's a choice. And also, to guide people to be more productive or to do what you need them to do. And that's fine if that's the choice, but also I think approaching it in fact finding, curiosity, and empathy is the way to use that data in a way that is human and not like a robot.
Yeah, I sent him a Teams message this morning and I said, hey, your Teams profile shows that your work hours starts at 7 Pacific time. And it's like, 8 o'clock and he's just punching in now. And he said, he apologized and he said, oh, sorry, I was running late, didn't think about letting anyone know. But, this is new in the whole direct report thing. He direct report to me on the 27th was when they moved him over to me.
Right.
And so I'm like, why is this guy lying about it? I have access to see when he punches in. Like, this is the first time. So I said, I said, HR moved you over to report to me so I can actually see when you punch in.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent him a screenshot of all the times
Mm-hmm.
he's late. So I said, I'm open to, is there a reason why I'm open to shifting your schedule to an 8 a.m. start if need be?
Right.
But if you want to remain at 7 a.m., you need to show up on time.
Yeah. I mean, I think a couple things. I think that what you did, you're giving him accountability and stuff. I do think that sometimes these kind of conversations are better in a quick meeting with somebody, like face to face, instead of a Teams chat potentially. So think about that, because you might get to the bottom of something if you can see somebody and talk to them in real time, So just think about that. Think about approach, because if you come at it with your, I don't know if you were necessarily accusing, but you basically were like, I can see your stuff,
It's like, why is he lying about it?
Well, and is he? That's the other thing. Like, assume best intent. Maybe he is late. Maybe he has a kid that he needs to drop off. Maybe, who knows what the reasons are, right? It could be nefarious. It could not be. And people also, when they're put on the spot, they will fib sometimes. You know what I mean? So I think maybe having a conversation with him where you have cameras on and just talk about it might help, and say, hey, and what you did is great. If we need to change something, let us know. It's also, you could lean back into the team agreements too. Now that you have this team and you have all these folks, maybe before you go like looking at all the data to figure out who's doing what, maybe you talk and establish team agreements, give them a minute, and then you have these agreements in place, or you take the ones you already have and look at them and then go from there. But I don't know, food for thought. So Beth, go ahead.
I'm a new manager. So I saw that, you went through team agreements. I'm like, that is awesome. I need to come up with this.
We'll give you the slides
together.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll
Thank you.
Slides. Yeah.
Thank
For sure.
you.
Beth, do you have something else or tag on, or either way?
Well, I was going to tag on because I've been in her position, and I've done that. And nobody gives you a manager's handbook, honestly.
Yeah.
And honestly, you learn to be a manager from whoever you have had as managers often.
100%. Yeah.
So it's the perpetual, I can tell I've had managers and I'm like, oh, you were managed by such and such. Like, how do you know? I said, because you're the same style. But I think when you come into a new group, and I've had this happen, and we're going through it right now, transitioning from one manager to another manager, there's always upheaval for people. There's uncertainty. And I think sometimes having those conversations, either one-on-one or in a group, maybe it's a certain, job perspective, it's a technician. And honestly, having been a woman and managing male counterpart or male people, I've had different conversation styles depending upon who the people are. Women will find it easier to talk to a woman sometimes, not always. And sometimes men will not be as open as they may be with their buddy counterpart or male manager. And I've seen that happen depending upon industries. So I think, having those conversations with people and kind of getting a feel for them and what's going on in their world too before. And I've done it on Teams. I mean, I don't know hourly, but I've forgotten to put myself in, like turn my offline to online. I'm like, there I am.
Right.
Halfway,
Completely.
3 hours into my day. I'm like, oh, look, I'm online.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, that's just my perspective from past experiences. And I know.
I'm the only woman in the IT department, and he did report to a man.
Welcome to the wonderful world of women in IT. The one, like two people.
Yeah. I don't. Do you have other stuff that, like, I know we don't have much time left, and I wasn't sure where
I was gonna pop in. I was letting everybody finish. Sharon's internet went kablooey. So I think this is all awesome. And what we were thinking is, if you guys still want to keep the conversation going, is have it go in the LinkedIn group
and chit chat about all of this stuff. It's a safe place. But also I wanted to make sure that there was enough time for me to thank Heather for being here on behalf of the group.
You're welcome.
It's nice seeing you, not just at a conference.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. You know, I want to say one more thing about this topic with the team agreements and issues and managers and being, so I will say that I have had the experience of being put in a role as a manager and literally having to clean up other people's messes, having to manage people out, having people be awful, having people not doing their jobs. And it is really overwhelming. And I was like, oh, it'll be fine. It was not fine. Okay. And it was really hard. And so I think it's more like my 2 cents here. Take a step to give yourself the tools that you need to do what you need to do. And the team agreement saying, I will make sure I will send these slides over so that you all have the bigger slide deck. Because what can happen very quickly is that you are made into the insert whatever first letter itch, you know, and you become the jerk, the heavy, you know, the person who is like having to do cleanup crew on aisles 5, 6, and 7. And then all of a sudden everybody turns on you and then you're the problem. So I would say tread carefully in this new way, in this role, because of that. So as you're doing these things where and I would take away the words, in my opinion, calling people out. I would say you are encouraging them to keep their commitments. And you know what I mean? So like try and flip the script on some of that stuff because we know what it is. Somebody you'll be like, you're not coming to the job in time, you know, or whatever it is, right? Or you're not whatever. So, but switch that around a little bit. I'm not saying you have to soften. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying manage with clarity and with tools because I have had that happen. I have had it happen where I've been trying to get people, like one person didn't like how direct I was. The other person was like, you're micromanaging. The other person was like, I need more direction. I'm like, oh my gosh, what do y'all want? Right. And then they all got together, hive mind on me and turned on me. And I was like, okay, you know, and that happens. And with what you're in the middle of, I'm looking at the Queen's Gambit chessboard and I'm like, I'm concerned. So use the tools and be careful. Okay. That goes for everybody in those situations because that happens to all of us. You all of a sudden you're a manager and you're like, I don't know what I just inherited. You know,
that's me right now.
Or you have the words where you're the B word, and the guy that was there before you was, you know, he was in charge. Really? Because you know.
He was super cool and didn't say anything.
He was so in charge. Nobody was doing anything. They were getting away with murder.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're there with the broom to try to clean everything up, and you're the bee. You know.
Yeah,
so.
I am the cleanup crew right now. That's why everyone got moved under me. Yeah. So, ladies, thank you so much. Thank you, Heather. I got to drop for my IT daily meeting.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, no worries.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Awesome.
You bet.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the great discussion,
everybody.
too.
Thank you, Heather.
It's lovely to see so many friendly and wonderful faces. I hope you all are good. Sending you goodness for sure out there. So yeah. Take care. Okay. Bye, y'all.